San Diego. And I was assigned to training recruits in the Navy. And then I met my wife there. And we were married for almost 59 years. She died last year, and she's in a niche in Miramar National Cemetery waiting for me. Anyway, I had a great time in the Navy, and I recommend any one of you that one of the best things you can do is join the Navy and see.
Okay, I'd much rather talk about you than I would talk about myself. There's a quality about you that is unique. Who knows what the word unique means? Different from anything else. It doesn't need help us. You know, something very unique. You're as a unique person, you've got qualities about yourself that nobody else has. Like yourself so well that you don't need drugs to make you be somebody else. If you go from here on to regular school, you'll have a whole new competition. So, again, like yourself real well, and you won't need any drugs. You realize when I went in the service, they gave us cigarettes, right? No charge. And so a lot of men, well, we all become smokers. The only reason why was because I discovered cigars that I didn't have to inhale, and really used to fly Dumbos, PUIs were manufactured right here in San Diego, in and out of Cuba, and the cigar smelled so nice and well that you didn't need to inhale it, and things like that. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I was raised on a little farm outside of Des Moines, Iowa, right near the Army post and the airport. I always wanted to fly, and I had to, when I was dirt and poor, I can never take a little wagon to go get soup in a soup kitchen. I hope you never have to do something like that. But finally I got old enough to get off that Iowa farm, and I really never ever went back. All right. One of my unique qualities was that I was able to memorize literature. Anybody here notice Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star? Would you like to say it? Go ahead and say Twinkle, huh? How many, now, there's 7 verses to it, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. How many knew that? All right, I'll do the first one. Twinkle, twinkle, little star, how I wonder what you are. Up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky. When the great round sun is set, and you grasp it, you is wet, and you show your little light, twinkle, twinkle all the night. In the dark blue sky you creep, and often through my window peep, till you show your little light, twinkle, twinkle all the night. How about that? I was so sure there was another verse that I asked my wife, well, find the other verse, something like that. When we looked it up, there's actually 7 verses to that. When you've memorized all those 7 verses, you'll be somebody else. All right. A little bit about my military career. We were so unprepared for a war that it's almost shameful. So when the only aircraft we had that could deliver a bomb was the SPD Dauntless Dive Bomber. It was primitive because it didn't have, its wings didn't fold. It, what else? It had, there's 2 of us in there. I was a gunner. I learned to be a gunner, and so I was a gunner. One day we were out flying, and I said to the pilot, Well, I should talk. The communication in this thing was a voice tube between the gunner and the pilot. And I said, permission to break out the gun and test fire. He said, what gun? A lot of the those days, a lot of the pilots just got through gunnery school and became officers. So, by some miracle, I wound up at Guadalcanal, Henderson Field in South Pacific. At that time, the Japanese were just ready to invade Australia and New Zealand. And so the Americans are real heroes there because we turned their whole selves around and started back up the road. How many have heard of a plant called Bougainville? Well, that was a little line of thing that the combatants retired to. Anyway, we go out in the morning and look for targets. I was in what's called VS 54. Somebody asked me what V stands for. V stands for heavier than air, and S stands for scout. Now let's see. I'd much rather you ask some questions than than me just talk about myself.
Well, I wasn't in the military as long as these people were. I was in the service for 3 years and 9 months. I was assigned to the Strategic Air Command. I don't know if any of you guys know what it is. It's actually more of a long-range bombers. They are the B-52s, which were also one of the biggest threats in Vietnam. We actually were support to all our ground troops in Vietnam. Matter of fact, I was assigned to Mayfair Air Force Base in Sacramento for about 2 years. Then later on, we went to Anderson Air Force Base, which we did all the support for Vietnam, all the ground troops and Marines and the Army and so forth, where we were involved in the breaking of the Iron Triangle, which where some of the military personnel was trapped. And from Anderson, we came back to Mayfair Air Force Base, and later on I was reassigned to Utapao Air Force Base, which also support to our ground troops, which actually we did most of the arc lights, which was in, I don't know if you guys ever heard of Rolling Thunder. It was all over Vietnam, and it's nothing but support for the Marines and the Army. So that was actually my whole tour. From there on, in 1969, I was discharged, went back to Travis Air Force Base, and that was my tour in the service.
Good morning, St. Columba. Good morning. So, just like these wonderful gentlemen, I too have had the privilege of being in the United States military, specifically the Navy. I'm the baby out the group. I've been in for 19 years, so I'll be retiring and joining them next year. So a little bit about me. I joined the Navy when I was 17 years old. All I know is I wanted to get away. I grew up in Hartford, Connecticut, and I wanted to get away from home. What's the easiest, quickest way to get away and try to see the world? Just join the military. So I figured, you know what, the U.S. Navy, that sounds pretty good. So let me go ahead and do that. So lo and behold, the Navy brought me out here to San Diego, California. I was stationed aboard an aircraft carrier called the John C. Stennis. We did an around-the-world tour. We started off in Norfolk, Virginia, made our way all the way to San Diego. Along the way, I got to stop by the Persian Gulf. I got to stop by Australia. I got to stop by Guam. All these wonderful, unique, great places that I would have never been able to visit had it not been for the Navy. After that, my tour aboard the John C. Stennis, I went to Jacksonville, Florida. I said, you know what, I wanted to get away from home, but I kind of miss my family. Let me get back closer to them. So I went to Jacksonville, Florida. In Jacksonville, Florida, I joined a special team. It's called the Mobile Communications Unit. figured, you know what, I'm in the Navy, this is kind of different. Let's see what this is all about. I went to Suda Bay, Greece, and then in the year 2003, that's when the invasion of Iraq occurred. So we went from Suda Bay directly to Iraq. So that was my first tour there. After a while, I came back home to Jacksonville. Little Gavin was born, and guess what? 2 months after Gavin was born, I was back in Iraq. And many things happened that these gentlemen can tell you about. Some good, some bad, but the memories, they're going to be there forever. Met lots of great friends, did lots of cool stuff, worked on lots of awesome equipment. After that, came back and said, you know what, San Diego's not so bad. Let me come back to San Diego, California. It's nice, it's sunny, you can surf, whatever, right? Came back here and I served aboard another ship called the USS Chancellorsville. Well, on board the Chancellorsville, I started learning different equipment like communications and radar, submarine tracking, things like that. Fantastic. Once again, it was all great. And then an earthquake happened in Japan. You guys remember that?
Yes.
That terrible tsunami that occurred? So guess what? My ship was right off the coast. So we said, we might as well help those guys out. So in the middle of the freezing waters, we're helping these poor Japanese people out. One of my fondest memories that I will ever have is us, the crew, nice and warm aboard our ship, writing emails to the family, surfing Facebook, doing all of that. We had a chaplain aboard, and the chaplain said, the Japanese people need your help. Why don't you guys do whatever you can do, and let's show our gratitude and support for those people. So all of us, we got a bunch of sweaters, scarves, hats, blankets, anything and everything that we could get our hands on, and we just shipped it off over to Japan, no questions asked. Those people were so grateful. They started writing letters to us. They started emailing us. They started getting a hold of us personally to thank us. And that's one of the wonderful things that the Navy and the military in general can afford each and every one of you, or your parents, or friends and family, whoever's involved in it. So once again, next year, when I'm no longer in the Navy, I'm going to have so many fond memories to look back upon. And if any one of you are thinking about it after high school, I say talk to somebody. You might know someone, or you might know someone who knows someone, and they have many, many more stories to tell you guys. But thank you.